Good evening, everyone. Anthony Molina, I'm the Director of Facilities for the school district. I'm here to present the facilities operation and maintenance budget for the coming year. We usually try to start off the presentation talking about some of the cost drivers for the district and where we get to our fees and the things that really drive my budget. Usually it's utilities and a couple other things. So we'll talk a little bit about that first. This gives you an overall idea of electric we pay to the New York Power Authority. So we are a solar system where we have our arrays on our buildings, and Con Edison. In Con Edison we pay both electric and gas, but it comes out of the electric line. Overall electric, where we anticipate it to increase, we think it's going to go about 13 to 15%, and that's based on information that we get from the New York Power Authority, the consortium that we purchase electrical power through. So far to date, we expended about $330,000 on electric costs, and again, that electric cost is comprised of the Power Authority, the solar, Con Edison, all under that number, which represents roughly about $47,000 a month. And if you do the balance of what we have based on our budget for last year, we have about $232,000 left, so that gives us about $46,000 a month from here going forward. So we're right on line with the numbers. We might be a little tight, but we're right there with everything. Projected utility budget for the coming year is $665,000. The breakdown for solar is about $120,000. Night was about $420,000, and Con Edison, based on what we know, is about $125,000, based on our past budgets and the information that we get where the budget's going. Some of the things we're looking to do in the coming future is we're looking to do an energy performance contract, which we've talked about at a couple of the meetings. And one of the big savings cost items would be going to LED lighting. Now, most of our buildings are fluorescent lighting on the insides. We're looking to go to LED. Roughly, with the LED lighting, our savings for the EPC would be about 40 to 50% off our electric bill going to LED. Solar, we're looking also at additional possibilities for solar. We have a new maintenance building, so if there's a possibility we can put some panels up on that roof as well, and then maybe going to a land-based array somewhere in the district. First up. Solar information about the solar. We have 5 buildings that are producing solar power. All the elementaries, the middle and the highs. It accounts for about 40% of the district's needs. We produced about 4.9 megawatt hours since inception in 2016. The 3 elementary schools operate primarily on solar during the year. They can almost sustain themselves 100% on solar, depending on weather conditions, sunlight, all that rest of the good stuff, right? Furnace Woods has the largest array out of the 3. The one nice thing about the solar is, the biggest value for me is it stabilizes our bill. It keeps things consistent. We know what that price is going to be. We already have a power purchase agreement, so we know what that cost is. As opposed to when we purchase our electrical or through Knight or Con Edison, we're at the whim. If gas prices or prices for production and delivery go up, then our cost goes up with those providers as well. And then we have some nice offsets as well. Every time we use our solar, we're saving carbon dioxide, we're saving gallons of fuel, we're also being able to power other things in the community instead of using it for heat for the district. Some other drivers, like I said, it comes to utility costs, fuel oil, we purchased that off a state contract. The cost per gallon has increased from last year. Last year was about $1.72 a gallon. Now it's up around $2.86. We expect that to rise a little bit more before the season's out, so about $1 or so a gallon. Fuel saving measures, we're always looking to do something. In the barn, we did some more weatherization in the building. We're changing exterior doors to a more weatherized, bulkier door that keeps the weather out, helps us save fuel. We watch the forecast and plan accordingly. And what that means is my guys watch, and I watch the weather. If we go into a heat, warm day, maybe we'll roll back the boilers and we'll run them as long. We'll do different things to curtail the usage to save on our fuel costs. And we also have the proposed energy performance contract coming up, and as we get more details with that and we get more involved in the energy performance, we'll talk a little bit more of that in the future. Propane, we use that on state contract. Increase in cost from last year at this time. And propane account, we use that to run the pilots for the boilers, and we also use that for cooking in some of the buildings. The high school is primarily on gas. You can run gas in the building, so we have gas for the boilers and we have gas for the cooking, and the same thing with French units. Natural gas, Con Ed, talked a little bit about that. Jumped the gun, but gas usage costs increased a little bit from last year. We expect to go up a little bit more, and it's going to plateau a little bit, recess back. And that's what we see from, we get most of my data from Energy Information Administration, the EIA, which is online. And I download data from there and I look at trends in different ways of those utilities jumping through the cost cycles. Next slide. Now we get into the numbers. Instructional salaries, we anticipate that to go up about $73,000, which represents a 2.5% increase. Equipment, utility, we're going to keep that the same, be zero. Contractual services, we're going to take a little bit of jump of that, jumping at about $35,000 to 28%. We have a couple of things that come around every so often, and one of those things, we have an ABI, we have an AHERA, we have some other contract services that we have to do, some inspections of our elevators every so often, so those things jump up our costs. We anticipate that to roll back though after this year, and then we'll reevaluate that when we get through. Contract services also has to do with our boilers, has to do with our gyms, inspections and different kinds of things that we do inside of our buildings. We've also seen an increase in our supplies, contract services, professional services. It's just where we're going right now with a lot of different things, and trying to get supplies to my buildings and trying to get materials in my buildings. I'm seeing an increase in cost, so I think that's rolled into there as well with some of these contractors when they give me pricing. Insurance, that's going to go up a little bit, about 5%. I think we touched on that. Maintenance contracts, maintenance guys come in and they do maintenance inside our buildings. We're adding a little bit more money in there. It's about a 5.9% increase. Professional services, we're taking a little dip in that. We had some professional services, architect, engineer services that we needed to do over the last year, and we're rolling that back a little bit, about minus 4%. Materials and supplies, we're jumping that up a little bit. Again, material costs, supply costs has gone up a little bit, so we wanted to just put a little more money into that as well. Next slide. Oil, we moved that a little bit. We tend to think that that's going to go up a little bit. It represents about a 3.2% increase. Electric and gas, we touched on that when we talked about the drivers. We had put an 18%. For electric, gas, and water, there's a slight increase in those because we added a new building. So we have a new maintenance building, so we have water with that, we have electric with that, and we have gas with that. And water for that building also ties into sewage. So all the water that's coming out has to go back. So I have to pay when it comes in, and I have to go on the back end when it goes back out again. And one of the things that we did with the administration building when we built the maintenance building, we tied the septic system that was at the administration building to the maintenance building, and we're pumping that back out, and it's going into the sewer mains, and it's being taken away from here. So there's a cost for that. So that's why some of those numbers are going up as well. And so like you see, like the municipal water went up a little bit, so I now have the sewer charges for those two buildings. Telephone will go up a little bit, represents a 1.7% increase. Gas, like I said, propane and things like that going up, it's 5.3. Maintenance projects, we put a little bit more money into that. Those are things that we do around the buildings to try to keep things into shape, about 5% increase. Security of plant contractual, that has to do with some of our coasters and for BOCES that we pay for some consultants to be inside the buildings to do work with us. And that staying the same, so it's a zero. And the total increase is about a $254,000 increase from year to year, which represents 5.2%.
Questions? Corey?
I
I've only got two. So this all looks great. The first question is on solar. Do we have a program to maximize solar generation by removing snow and cleaning the panels on a regular basis?
No, actually, Corey, we cannot do it because we don't know the solars. This is a purchase power agreement. The owners, they change many hands, so I don't know who's the owner now, but we cannot. The one thing that happens is because of the heat, usually there's no snow on it, but we cannot.
But they're flat.
I know.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of wind across the building, so it doesn't blow it off the panels, and then from the heat,
We cannot.
but we're not allowed to touch it.
We cannot touch them, okay? That's part of our agreement. So actually, if something breaks, we have to call the company and say, you come and fix it. And it doesn't cost me anything. It costs me the fact that now I have to hook up to night, but it's more expensive. So I have an incentive, but it's not like they are charging me. But that's the way the agreement was. They are the owners, and they are the ones that have to come and fix it.
Yeah, okay. Corey, they're monitoring on their back end as well. So it behooves them to get it operational and functioning as well. So they'll call me if they have an inverter out or if they have a panel out. They call me right away and say, look, we got to come out there and do a service call because we're not getting the right production out of the panel. So they also said when we put them in that if there's too much snow or they get dirty or something like that, they're going to come out and they're going to either clean the panels, replace the panels, or do what they ever do because they want that money as well. If they're not producing solar, then we're not paying them. So it only behooves them to get out here and take care of things. But we're not allowed to touch it.
Have we had any solar failures? Yeah.
We've had a couple yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
No inverters, just the panels.
just the panels. Okay. So the inverters should last. Are the inverters inside or are they micro inverters up on? Okay, so the micro inverters. So last question is, have we thought about electric school buses for the district?
So that's
Okay, yes. All right. Thank you.
Safety and transportation presentation.
All right, so I pre-asked my question.
Thanks,
Maybe
Stephanie.
something that might go along with it though is if when we do get to electric school buses, you're gonna need to have power for them, right? And so, I don't know, just thinking down the road, how it could happen, making that happen would probably fall underneath the operations.
Yeah, it's going to be a joint effort between the two of us, and there's going to be a lot of thought process that goes through that. There's a lot, when, Liz will talk a little bit about it maybe as well, but when the companies come in, they start selling these products to you, they're going to want to set up, charging stations and all as part of the whole package when they come to you. The other aspect of it is, are we going to put charging stations at the building for our buses to use at events, or are there going to be, charging stations for us to use at other school districts for us to use when we go to their events? So yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure that would have to, be built with that. There are also, if we at the bus garage also thought about putting solar panels down there, if there's a way to. There's battery backup storage that we can have, and we can have solar panels now charge those batteries, and those batteries are then used to charge the buses. So there's a lot of different things that would have to be considered to at some point.
And if I can, not to get stuck on electric buses, but there's a great advocacy effort to our state lawmakers to not just incentivize electric buses, although there are pros and cons, and we will talk about that, but to start to incentivize buildings and operations areas where we can reduce our footprint, where there could or should be incentives to go green, solar, improve our HVAC boilers with more energy efficient equipment, and have that be incentivized by the state rather than buses, because we're finding there are more limitations on electric buses than there are if Anthony had some grant money, to improve efficiency with some of his operations. So there's starting to be a a move away from buses and more toward operations that you can yield savings quicker, and there are more savings to be had on the physical plant, perhaps in transportation.
Anthony, I know there's a lot in the news right now about increasing energy costs. Are you pretty confident that you've budgeted enough if our energy costs go sky high?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we've been looking at everything, I work with Enrique, you know, we go back and forth, and I also talk to my constituents and other building, you know, other school districts throughout Westchester to see where they're going, what they're thinking. There is a, you know, no one can predict, you know, 100% of what's going to transpire. But yeah, we try to put a little bit of extra in there to make sure that we can cover what we have.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Thank you very much, Anthony.
Thank you.